welcome to the Catholic Forge, a conversational podcast where we gather to explore our Catholic faith and discuss how it forms our lives. All are welcome to join in this conversation and journey. Thank you for listening. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Eric in Missouri.
This is Ben in Kentucky.
And this is John in Illinois.
Okay. On this episode, as the title of the episode suggests, talking about TV and screen time. So, complementary topics, but we kind of get a go back and forth. I want to talk about TV first. I just mentioned I have been watching through all of Seinfeld, a landmark television series.
A very Lenten pursuit of you.
There are no Alleluias in Seinfeld.
Yeah, so you're good.
And, one of those things that I put off forever watching, and now even Tori enjoys it, and the episodes are like 24 minutes long or whatever, so it's easy to get one in before bed if we just kind of want to watch it and laugh and enjoy.
Yeah.
And what a treat. At the same time, because it's Lent, sort of taking stock of that and thinking, how much is too much? Or how much in general of TV per day? And I'm in preparation, I looked at some studies and stuff, and we can talk about that later. But if you just had to answer that for yourself, not for your kids, not for your spouse, just for yourself, how much TV is too much TV on a daily basis, weekly basis? What do you think?
On a daily basis?
Any amount.
Any
Sure.
amount?
Any amount?
John might have been joking a little bit, but I can almost, there's some truth to that. John, were you like, how serious are you on that?
I am sincere, but by all means, that does not apply to our lives. We do watch television, and we do watch too much of it. But I see how really, in many ways, there's very little value to television.
Yeah, that's kind of...
We still watch it, though. And Stranger Things is amazing.
Oh, it's wonderful, yeah.
So we should do an episode on Stranger Things.
That's a good idea. We should think about that. No, I think, honestly, for myself, everything changed after having kids, because as every parent knows, your amount of free time gets reduced after you have children. So when you have a lot of free time, I didn't mind just throwing away a couple hours of it on TV, because I was still going to have more to do the other stuff I wanted to do too. Whereas now I have to be very discriminating on, okay, tonight.
And calculating your time allotment.
Exactly. Like, okay, tonight, if I have 30 minutes of free time and I have to choose between, 3 or 4 different things, usually the other things always come out a little more noble than watching TV, If I can choose between practicing guitar or praying or reading a book, it's like...
Playing with your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it's like, okay, where does TV really fit on that? So yeah, for me on a daily basis, I feel like a half hour can be too much on some days. But, and then I really, if I ever get the time to sit down and watch a full, like one of those long movies, like a 2.5 hour movie, by the end of it, I'm just like, whoa. What did I just do? I blacked out. Where am I?
Sure.
Sure. If I on a day watch 2 episodes of something, I don't usually feel too guilty. It's past that 2 episodes where I start going, man, I'm really wasting away here. So a movie I can have a different set for, but it's got to be at the right time. Cecilia and I will watch a movie, but it's almost always in the evening after the kids have gone to bed.
Right, that's us.
Or it's a movie we're watching with the kids. That most of our TV movies are now kids movies. Unfortunately, Aladdin.
Yeah.
I agree with that idea that after a couple episodes, for me, even with something like Seinfeld, where they're almost all standalone, right? Unlike Stranger Things, which builds on itself
Stranger
marvelously.
Things is a harder one to only go 1 episode.
But something like Seinfeld, where they're kind of standalone, unless it's like a to be continued sort of thing. After a couple of them, even these standalone episodes, I kind of feel like I'm not retaining very well. Do you know what I mean? But I would say to the same degree, if I read for a long time, then my brain is like, okay, hold on. we just took in all this. Let's stop for a while and pick up tomorrow. Maybe that's just how I am.
That's why it takes him a couple days to get through a comic book.
That's absolutely all damn pictures in there. Yeah, that's true.
But the wonderful thing is you know, it would be very Generation Xer for us just to talk about TV, because of course now most of us really aren't watching a lot of TV on a TV anymore. A big portion of our TV time, at least for most of society now, is on your cell phone. You know, or sometimes even if you're really old school, on a tablet. You know, yeah. So a lot of it. So when we're talking about screen time, then we're also talking about a bigger thing than just, of course, this. You know, I mean. I don't remember what the statistics were, but it's like over 6 hours a day are spent on the internet in front of a screen for the average American, is what I think I just heard. And that's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, and then for some people it's more because they've got podcast going and they've got all kinds of other things and they're doing social media stuff. But just the consumption of media is huge. And what is that doing to us in our prayer life, in our family life, in our social life? It's and of course this is not a new topic. I mean, everyone's talking about this, but what an incredible thing to dive into.
We are in a position when our culture is making it more comfortable for us, literally more comfortable. I just saw an ad. It was on Hulu while watching Seinfeld, and it came up, and it was about this new kind of, not new I'm sure, but this particular brand of contact, and the whole ad was in a flash how much this, I think, a young man looked at all these screens during the course of the day. And so you see young man A, who they both watch the same amount of, at work they're looking at screens, you know, texting and using it for GPS and all that kind of stuff. But the young man A at the end of the day lays down to bed and his eyes are bloodshot and he's rubbing his eyes and, oh, you know, my eyes hurt and I got a migraine because of all the screen time. But then young man B, who used the Duramax whatever contacts that condition your eyes to support the strain of screen watching 24 hours a day or whatever it is, and he lays right down for a peaceful slumber. And you see a lot of this where we're really conditioned to accept a constant barrage of screen watching in whatever form. I like what John said a lot, that there is a difference in even the last 20 years. You know, I did read one article. I don't even, I can find it handy or not here. I'm not going to waste time scrolling for it. Here, this is from The Conversation. John, you can tell me how reputable they are. I don't know. The idea of screen time initially gained traction in 1999. The idea of it, when the American Academy of, then it goes on to talk about it. And so in 99, at least, they coined the term, but in 99, they could not have even dared to predict the level of usage that we are seeing now.
Well, not until the advent really of the iPhone, you know, when we have that first smartphone come out, and now you have so ready access to it. And
it's everywhere.
And this would be the first thing that I would point out is the usage. And this is terrifying. How many times I go to a restaurant or a doctor's office or somewhere, the emergency room with one of my kids, and there are other people there, particularly kids, and that's where they are. They're on a screen, you know, so their parents are sitting there having a lovely, quiet conversation, and the kid at the restaurant is on the screen.
Yeah.
And so it's become the parenting tool, and there's just this constant thing. And so I can give my kid a movie, and they can be sucked in for 2 hours, or if there's 15 minutes to waste, that we're watching a YouTube video or a clip somewhere, and so there's just no downtime. It's just always this barrage of media. And I'd love to spend a few minutes talking with you guys about that.
Sure.
Yeah, and that is, of course, that's something I've seen everywhere. It kills me. It breaks my heart because I see all these opportunities for parents to connect with their children being lost, and not just children. You know, you mentioned restaurants. How often have you been in a restaurant and the table next to you, maybe there's 4 people sitting at it, and all 4 of them are looking down at their own phones instead of talking to each other.
Yeah, they're all somewhere else. They're all together, but they're not, and that's a terrifying thing. That we are with people, but I'm not. I'm actually with people that aren't really here. That's just horrifying aspect of what a breakdown in communication, what a breakdown in our ability to have conversations. It's amazing how much the art of conversation has diminished.
Oh, absolutely.
The ability to talk to people, or even, in the grocery line. As a teen, I can remember always being nervous. The old lady in front, I knew she's going to want to talk to me. She's going to say something. What am I going to do? And you had to learn to talk to her.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, everyone just has earbuds in, or they're just looking at their phone, and no one's making eye contact.
Yeah.
Even when they're driving, I see it.
Yeah, it's like a socially acceptable sign that you can put on yourself saying, I'm not interested in communicating with you. Don't try.
I was at a staff meeting the other day, and we've got a bit of tangent on the cell phones here. But we had a staff meeting, and I was just stunned because I looked around at the moment. The priest is talking, and 4 people are on their cell phones, and about 4 or 5 other people have their phones out, and they're looking at it, waiting for it to light up. And when it does, they have it at silenced, but when it lights up, they reach up and they'll respond to a text. And I can remember just like 2 or 3 years ago at one of a staff meetings, somebody calling it out, being, with somebody with that, please, could you pay attention because somebody was on their cell phone. Now everyone in that room is using through the whole time their phone, communicating off this thing. So it's such a curious thing, such an attachment to that screen and what's going on. Talking about a TV show, The Office has a lovely one. The Office goes off to Jeopardy, and Ryan, the young millennial, is there.
Oh, you mean like bar trivia night?
Yeah,
right,
they're doing the bar trivia night.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they're like, sir, you have to put away your phone. And he's like, he tries to do it.
He gives the phone away.
And then he takes it. I can't. He can't be
And he
separated
runs
from
out
his
of the
phone.
restaurant.
It was so wonderful because it's so true.
Yep.
Yeah. Man,
The TV teaches us about how bad it is.
That's right.
there's so many, man. So to quote, I think it's Tracy Morgan on the show 30 Rock, my brain feels like a bowl full of mice right now. I've got so many ideas rolling around. Going all the way back, not to derail us, but going all the way back to your comment, Eric, about 1999 being the first screen time. I'm thinking of my own life, and that's the mid to late 90s is when my parents, or when my household got its first computer, probably mid 90s. So that makes sense that screen time came around in the late 90s, because then that was when more and more homes were getting this second type of screen. You know, everybody already had the TV. And then by the late 90s, a lot of homes had introduced the desktop computer as well. Yeah. So then it's just like this multiplication of screens, a screen snowball as the decades progress. And so that was the first thing. And then the second thing, you guys have both hit on in different ways the quality of addiction, which is a stronger word than attachment. And I'll make the warning right now for the listeners. I can come down really heavy-handed on this topic. I'm super passionate about it, but I'm right there with everybody else. I love TV, but it is a love-hate relationship because of what you said, John, of does it bring value to my life, or does it only distract me from my real life? And you mentioned the staff meeting, John. You hit it right on the head, that just a few years ago, even that would have been unacceptable. And now I see it too.
Absolutely.
I mean, even the bosses, if I'm I don't go to a lot of meetings per se, but even if I am in kind of a formal setting, the person that I would expect to be offended by phone use is the one using their phone. And to like a really harsh comparison, again, using the word addiction, one place that an addict can go and not be reprimanded or judged is a room full of addicts. You know, if everyone in the room is addicted, no one else is going to judge you for your addiction. And I think that's the place that we're getting now, is so many of us, we're all hooked. I mean, the screens, we're all hooked. So of course nobody's going to reprimand or think anything of it when someone else is on their screen of whatever type. And what scares me is how quickly it's, you know, I mean, just we're not that old, you know, the three of us, and just in our short lives, it's really snowballed fast, you know.
History will look back at this time and say, can you believe how fast this happened?
Yeah, and it was a lost generation. I remember this is years ago. Father Sherry wanted to do a homily on on TV usage. He wanted to really talk about it, and he had me doing some research. So I went to the U.S. Census, and I mean, they were shocking things like that. A child, by the time they are 5, has spent more time watching television than they will spend in their entire life having quality conversation with their father. That's the average.
Wow.
I mean, it was just stunning stuff. It was that by the time you reached like 40, you would have spent an entire decade watching television, and that was 10 years, 24-hour days, like if you put together all the time. It was just unbelievable. So what a thing. And I actually want to sing the praises of television a little bit here and some of the awesome things that we can. And we don't want to say television, but screen time and videos and internet and all that stuff. I want to sing the praises of it too in just a little bit. But the thing that I think is most insidious, and I've been evaluating this because a part of our screen time has become video games. We recently got a Nintendo Switch in our house. When my dad died, we had a Wii, and my son and I started playing some of the Star Wars Lego games. It was a lot of fun, and we never went anywhere. But then it broke down, and we broke down, and we got a Nintendo Switch, and my son Joseph is really good at managing it. We set up real strict boundaries with it. You know, we can only play on Sundays and stuff like that. Only after the sun. Screens aren't allowed to be on in our house unless the sun is down. So if it is sunny outside, you have to be outside. You're not allowed to watch television. We're not allowed to play on the computers, tablets, anything, unless it's actually evening. So if it's nice, you got to be outside. But and then things like video games are only on Sundays. So we got a real good balance with him, but it's amazing to watch my younger son, Michael, who's 5 now. Oh, he just, every day, Daddy, you think we could play? No, it's not Sunday, Michael. No, and we just always have to go through that. And so the thing that I think is so insidious about it is not the content. You know, we're playing really benign games, the Lego games, and stuff like that, where nobody dies. There's no violence, you know, or no real violence, or the Mario games, real benign stuff. You know, you're jumping on mushrooms. The problem is the entertainment is so entertaining that everything else seems boring. And that's the danger. When our children, it's like if you have your kids watch educational TV when they're little, and then eventually they watch like cartoons that have no educational value, you'll never get them back to watching that educational stuff because the new stuff is so entertaining. It's so much more engaging, the drama, that they don't want to go back to the ABC thing. And so the same thing is true with life, where we're playing these video games and they're intense and there's energy and all this stuff. And then I got to go sit still at church and be quiet. Yeah. And then I got to go outside and play a game using my imagination. It just doesn't compare, at least not in the same speed. There's instant gratification in a video or in a video game or something on YouTube. Sometimes the kids will be sitting around and be like, can we look up cat videos? And I'm like, you know, they want to look up something they want to see because they want that instant gratification. So that's the most insidious part, is not... you know, like we didn't even get into content of TV and the loss of moral character and you know, and shows like Seinfeld, which are just deplorable in their moral character. Sorry, Eric. You know, we didn't even. It's not even talking about that because I think that's an obvious one that we can clearly see the degradation of moral character in shows. But the more dangerous part, I think, is just how entertaining they are. And how instantly they are satisfying versus real life and mass and prayer. How do I ever become still after playing Mario to sit down and be quiet for 20 minutes and say the rosary? It's almost impossible.
Right, yeah. I would want to go back just real quick and resonate, amplify the praise of the screen in as much as it is a vehicle for the new evangelization, for ministry.
And I think that should be our next section we jump into.
Well, you know, and so this does have more to do with the content specifically. Now, to the same degree, no kid is going to sit and watch, Dr. William Lane Craig debate, you know, Peter Dawkins or on ontological arguments, or watch Bishop Barron, you know, Veggie Tales, but. As far as, you know, the ways to engage the culture, such as Bishop Barron has done with his Word on Fire ministry, of course, to this degree, we can give praise to God for infiltrating the inner ranks of this screen world. And Ben, I know that you even said, and I get it now every day. I get Bishop Barron's little gospel reflection, itty bitty, teeny tiny on my screen. It comes. I know it comes at like 2:00 in the morning because I'm normally up and I see it bling, and I'm like, oh great, and so that's just it's just a moment, and of course it's going to be massively outweighed by all the time I spend scrolling through nothingness, but that's somethingness that I can enjoy, that might actually even profit me something in Christ. But however, that cannot explain away precisely the dangers that we have outlined, the nature of addiction.
Right.
I just not thought of it. I'm amazed when Hannah and Daniel, after they nap, before their snack, they always can watch a show every day, like 2 short episodes of something. And when they started watching it together, when Daniel was old enough to be up at that time, it was always like Daniel Tiger or Puffin Rock, which is so fun. I love that show so much. And a couple others. And now it's like they are moving from show to show to show so fast. But you remember it used to be that if you didn't put on that show, you had thought that you had made all happiness in the world disappear. They would rage against you.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, play the show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Crying, And today I was like, hey, do you want to watch Sarah and Duck, which is a delightful British comedy, or Puffin Rock, Scottish from, and they said, oh, no, Daddy, we want to watch Cat in the Hat. I was like, what? What's this Cat in the Hat? What's this llama? I don't understand. Like, didn't you used to love this, and now you just threw it away? Like
Martin Short is so delightful though in Cat in the Hat. He is just so I just love just listening to his voice is so wonderful.
Fair enough.
Evie watches that sometimes.
I'm amazed though that at their age, 4 and 2, they already. I mean, granted, like after they've seen all the episodes, they're like, we know what's going to happen. We know, and you can tell there's a difference. Like they laugh at the jokes. They hear it, they laugh together, they're perceiving it, the fresh content, whereas after you've seen Sarah and Duck all the way through 3 times over the course of 6 months, then, it's just not fresh anymore. And I understand that, that's reasonable, but I'm just amazed that those addictive tendencies, those even, I guess in the way of, I'm not saying it's a drug directly, but I always got to have more.
I'll go that far.
A little bit more, yeah.
Yeah.
Ben, I know you're a little more stalwart than I am. Which I appreciate. Yeah.
Well, and there's a good, because I'm with you. There obviously TV and now internet and stuff has been used for a lot of good. It's one of those things that it's just so powerful that the amount of self-discipline and control a person needs to keep it in the range of healthy. Maybe I've become a cynic on this. I don't feel that most of us have that amount of control and discipline that is needed.
That's what I find for my life. Like during Lent, we don't watch television. We don't, except on Sundays. And my life is so much better. And then every Lent we end, I go, I'm only going to watch one television
I'm just going to ease back in. Yeah, not much.
And then I just get to ease back in. I do good for the first week or two. And then all of a sudden, there's one
Stranger
night where
Things
I've watched 4
season 3
episodes,
comes.
or see Stranger Things comes out, and man, it's gone, and it's gone,
Yeah.
And like I'm staying up later and later, and then I'm getting up tireder and tireder in the morning. It's just like, yeah, it's a hard thing for me to be able to manage a healthy level.
Well, and those symptoms you just said, the reason I will take that leap, what Eric was hinting at, like a drug. You see the same thing in drug users or people who party. You're making a choice that's bad for your life in a lot of ways, even in a biological, physiological way of sleep loss, health loss. Yet we can't say no, and that's where that drug similarity comes in. And so I read
you can say no to the first one, but once you say yes, you can't say no to the second.
Yeah. And
I have a. Oh,
no,
please,
go ahead,
sorry.
Eric.
Well, I just have a couple things somewhat to that effect. And I'd like to throw them out there. I do agree or disagree, just some reading, okay? This is from a study. It's from an article from, again, John can be my fact checker, the Dana Foundation, D-A-N-A. It reads this: parents are in a more powerful position than they realize. We did a study with more than 1,400 families in 2 states and found that parents who set limits on the amount and content of children's media make a significant difference in terms of kids getting more sleep, doing better in school, being more pro-social, being less aggressive, and being lower risk for obesity. This was pretty surprising because these are very different types of variables, and parents had different ways of setting those limits. Yet, we still saw a strong effect, he says, whoever was doing the study. Simply setting limits on children's media has this huge ripple effect across a wide range of positive health indicators, even though parents won't be able to see the effects easily, which is a great line. Mm-hmm. As opposed to what we kind of talked about, like John said, going to the restaurant, or Ben, maybe you did, well, both of you did in some ways, and looking and seeing the family, the kids are playing the Minecrafts, and mom or dad are Snapchatting or Instagramming or whatever it is, and no one's really there. No one's really there. And then if I could flip over, I just found this delightful little idea here. If you're in a position where you realize that you've gone too far, and thank God, at least for myself, I don't know about Ben for you, where you and Alice are at. We know that John is beyond the point of no return, but our kids are young enough where we have a chance to put this into place. This is just a fun little thing, okay, called screen bucks, all right? So one screen buck equals 30 minutes of screen time. And of course, you can earn screen bucks in this economy of the home. And they have a couple examples here. If you fill or empty the dishwasher or do or fold a load of laundry, that's one screen buck per activity.
30 minutes is quite a bit. I do about 5 minutes per screen buck.
Vacuum carpet, sweep floors, put away groceries, mop floors, mom's choice, or 30 minutes of play with a pet is all one screen buck. And if you clean your room, you get 4 screen bucks. Now, they have here that family movies don't count. Family movie events are free. You can enjoy those, with everyone together. Or, it says down here at the very bottom, trade in 20 screen bucks for $10 in real cash. John, I don't know about that. But that's not bad. That's something. I think that 30 minutes is pretty generous.
Yeah.
But
it's a lovely
maybe,
idea, though.
Maybe the idea is that you can only cash in 1 screen buck per day or something like that. So
yeah.
you get 1 episode of Sarah and Duck and you're done. That's it. Now go. I don't know. It's something, anything. Going back to that article I just read from, simply setting limits has a huge ripple effect. Something, anything, do something. Even though your kids are going to come home from school and expect to be treated in this way or that way. And if we have time, I want to pivot quickly, if we can, into the ebook versus real book thing, but we don't have to. Please.
I love that. I love that quote. Yeah. Sorry, John, you're going to jump in there?
No. I was just going to affirm that idea. I think it's a wonderful idea to set those kind of limits. And I know that whenever we've set limits or changed a policy, there's always wailing and grinding of teeth and gnashing that occurs. And it only lasts for maybe a day, maybe 2 days.
Yeah.
And once they realize that we're resolved, we're not doing this, that we're going to limit this, we're not watching. It's so much beneficial. There was a period, at one point in time where we were juggling kids where, TV became the third parent at times. We got to get dinner going, just turn the TV on. That was a great blessing for us, so we thought. And then we're like, this is not good. We're not doing this anymore. We stopped doing that.
Yeah.
And it was hard 2 or 3 times, and then it worked. And now we don't even miss it. And now that's not an issue for us. So it is really setting those boundaries and go ahead and let them cry. You're the parent.
Exactly.
And that's what I'll just say. I say, you go ahead. I said, it's fine. You can cry. You see how well that works for you. And that's all I say. And I let them cry about it, and we're done.
Yeah, I see so many parents that, so what you just said, John, and the quote that you read, Eric, they don't realize they are in the position of power. And they'll say something like, oh, well, I don't like that he watches so much TV, but he just gets so upset if I turn it off. And I'm like, so you don't like the way your house is running, but you're letting a kid tell you how to run it? It drives me nuts. And it's not the loving thing to do, because your child doesn't know what's best for them. That's our job.
Yeah, my daughter Francesca would eat candy for every meal if she could.
Yeah, that's why they have parents to navigate what is best for them. So before we move to the ebook thing, Eric, though, if you guys will let me throw out a few of my, hardline ideas. So I read this book
Please.
a couple years ago called 4 Arguments, this is a strong word, for the elimination of television. And in the opening chapters, this guy is written in the late 70s. And if you can believe this, the author's name is Jerry Mander. Like the word gerrymander, only 2 separate names. That's for real. But he, name aside, he won me over. He's a smart guy. Now, this is not a Catholic book. It's not written by a Catholic author. He takes kind of that so oftentimes college professor, you can tell he's not really religious himself, but that's not the topic he's writing about. So he argues that television as a medium, just at its very core, at its very nature, is not redeemable. He said, educational program, documentary, doesn't matter, that you may learn things from the educational programs as far as information and knowledge, and that in itself is okay. But he really goes into the psychology of what's happening to your brain as you're watching the screen. And his point is, whether you are watching garbage or high-minded documentaries, it's the blue light, it's the process of the hypnotic effect of the screen that actually changes our brains. So he's saying you can get just as good of a mush brain from educational stuff as you can from entertainment, which I never would have inherently thought. I mean, he lays it out, of course, in detail, and really got me thinking about that. And then he also argues and shows and draws out in detail how the medium of television is much better suited for the most negative of humankind. Violence, sex, anger, all of that comes across better just by the nature of the medium of television than more peaceful, loving, high-minded ideals like joy, hope, love. And just think about the movies that we've watched, how easy it is to portray violence and sex. But it takes a very artistic, very well-directed movie to portray hope and love. And it's just harder to do on TV. So that was something I found really interesting, that television in itself can convey negativity easier than it can positive. That's kind of another scary idea about it.
Yeah. And I can't speak to any knowledge about it, but my mother is a social worker and studied quite a bit. And she's always been animate. And you probably have heard this, that, your child until they're the age 2 shouldn't even be allowed to see a screen. That it affects the brain waves actually in the brain development, just the same way that you're talking about, Ben. And so we have been good about that with some children, and some children not as good. But she's always, whenever she's over, and if the TV's on, don't let that baby see that TV.
No, that's
she takes it very serious.
That's absolutely true. And honestly, people hear that and might think that's some kind of hippie new age parenting thing. Alice and I adhered to that with our girls, of no TV before 2. That's actually a recommendation. If you get on the website, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the official national academy for all pediatricians, that is their recommendation. No TV under the age of 2. I've yet to meet a pediatrician who actually told me that at a checkup, though, of, when they're checking all the developmental stuff, like, now are you making sure not let him watch any TV? None of them say it. None of them promote that idea because it's so unpopular. But no, your mom, she's dead on.
Yeah. That's called neuroplasticity. Is that what that's called? Something like that?
I don't know.
Isn't that, John, is that in that vein of medical science? I can't remember.
We're out of our depth in this one here. I know that it's a warning. I hate to say anything, as though I know.
Well, I just noticed it. I read an article too quickly, in preparation, and those terms came up in this very regard. Ben, send me a link if you wouldn't mind, and we'll put that in the description over on the YouTube video. And we'll also try to get it out in another way, maybe on the website for show notes or something like that. Along with these other articles that we've referenced, check it out for yourself, okay? Because we are not medical professionals, okay? In any regard.
I would like to take
dads.
a moment to go back and extol the virtues too, though, that we do find in, as Eric was saying, in the new evangelization. And I said that I wanted to say some positive things about screen time. I actually just was at a conference today in the head of our diocese in Rockford, and we're all the parishes are looking at a program called Formed, which is being referred to as the Catholic Netflix.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a summation of a bunch of wonderful different groups, the Augustine Institute, Father Michael Gately's stuff, and a bunch of wonderful different collections. They're collecting it all together. There also are productions of movies and stuff like that. And they actually have full-length movies on there about Mother Teresa, about the Pope, St. John Paul II, things like that. And there is great virtue that can come from watching the lives of the saints. Now, maybe you'll destroy your child's brain in the blue screen, but I can remember as a child watching The Children of Fatima, and that movie having a very profound effect on me. So this isn't to say that we can't use it well. And if we are going to be exposing our children to TV and ourselves to TV, that stuff that does build us up, that where we see the witness of character of the saints, and we learn about our faith, or even movies like Wonder, where we're seeing good moral qualities, there can be value, and we can learn lessons from them. I'm not able to speak whether or not that those things outweigh their effect on the physiological functions of our brain, but nonetheless, getting to see those things, and one of the things that's so important about our Catholic saints is that when we study people that are able to deal with adversity and make it through adversity themselves, it's knowing family history and even religious history where other people have survived torment and struggles and anguish, because then when they are faced with those kinds, they have models of that. They know that they can survive from it. And so that those things are very valuable things to us too. So when we see John Paul II and all of the popes since have been calling for the use of screen time, the internet and YouTube and all of these different platforms to be able to evangelize, which of course is what we're doing here. And of course we're doing it in a brain-friendly format where you only have to hear our lovely voices and not see
That's right.
The blue screens with our faces.
That's right.
That's true. Ben, last word.
Yeah, they do. Podcasts do not have the hypnotic effect of a screen, so you're safe.
Except listening to Eric's lovely voice and your voice together. So,
unless you do watch on YouTube, but you can just turn your monitor
bouncing
off.
Anvil.
You can just, they do. You can just turn the monitor off and listen that way. And so we appreciate you listening wherever it is you listen. Okay, this has been the Catholic Forge. Oh, thank you again. Let me say it again. Thank you for listening. As always, we'd like to close with a prayer and a blessing. May God the Father,
God the Son,
and God the Holy Spirit bless you, guard you, and lead you to eternal life. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for listening to the Catholic Forge. We hope you've enjoyed this episode and will leave us a positive rating and review wherever you listen. How about 5 stars for less screen time and more podcasts? You can help out the show in a big way by sharing it with your friends and family. Whoever your most addicted screen-type friend and family person is, send this episode to them and enjoy the destruction of your friendship. I'm teasing. I'm just teasing. As always, you can continue the conversation with us on Facebook and Twitter, and to get a hold of us, you can reach us at thecatholicforge@gmail.com. For more information regarding the podcast, visit our website at www.thecatholicforge.com. We especially thank our magnanimous wives for their continued support of this project, and we thank you very much for listening.